Hello, it is Thursday. I think it's just past 1. Welcome to the Smart Hub and our HubLive. I'm very excited to be joining you again. My name is Elize Hattin and I'm here with the beautiful Karyn Battersby. And we're going to talk about technology and marketing and growing business. But as I said last week, we'll just give everyone a little bit of 5 minutes or so, or maybe not that much time, but a little bit of time so that you can hop on the live. So we'll just have a little bit of a chat. How are you?
Great, thanks, Elize. Thanks for asking me to come along.
Oh, we're so happy that you've agreed. Thank you so much, because I really like what you're doing with your marketing. In fact, I like it so much that I'm copying it right at this very moment. I really, really like the strategy when you told me about it last year. So how's your week been?
My week's been great, thank you. Yeah, can't believe it's already over almost. It's gone fast.
I know, it's Thursday already. Yeah, it's almost my favourite day of the week, Friday.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't have a favourite day.
You don't?
No, I really don't. I know a lot of people don't like Monday, but I actually really like Monday because Monday feels fresh and new and full of opportunity. So I always feel very optimistic and positive on a Monday.
I have to be honest. If I had to describe the feeling of Monday, it would be a single word. Tired. I'm tired on Mondays. I'm just like, I'm so tired on Mondays. I think it's psychological.
Yeah, it probably is.
It's really funny. Well, let's get going. So the reason why we're doing these Hub Lives is to share with everyone tips and tricks on how you can use technology to grow your revenue, make money, grow your business, grow your bottom line, increase your team size, save time, and just in general make business more viable and easier. And as I spoke about last week, we are literally working our way through a system of elements that every single business would share. So common business elements, starting from marketing, and then we'll talk about sales, and then we'll talk about service, and we might even touch on all three today, depending on how we go. Then we'll talk about the financials, so money, cash flow, what technology can you use to make that really easy, bookkeeping, etc., etc. And then we'll look at systems, then we'll look at team, employment, contracts, HR, and everything to do with team. We'll look at direction, how do you set up your mission, your vision, your culture, etc., etc. And leadership will be our final thing that we'll talk about. But we are still on the topic of marketing, and marketing is really defined as getting a customer. Do you have a definition for marketing, Karyn?
I guess I think of it in terms of educating the public about what it is that we do. Obviously, the reason why we do that is to get a customer, but a lot of what I do, I guess, is really about building relationships. So it's relationship marketing. It may not result in a sale right now, but it's about developing that relationship for the future so that they feel that we've got an understanding between us, a connection, that they intimately know me and trust me.
Okay, so you use marketing to create relationships and trust.
Yes.
And if you do that, in your experience, then ultimately you will get customers.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Excellent. That's excellent. So that doesn't sound very technological.
No, it doesn't, does it?
No.
But in this day and age, of course it is. It has to be because, I don't consider my clients to be local clients necessarily. I have clients that are literally anywhere in the world. A lot of my business is actually online. So how do you develop that trust and that intimacy and that relationship from 20,000 kilometres? And the answer to that obviously is technology.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's a really important point though, that marketing is all about people, and people is about trust and understanding and relationship, and technology is like the vehicle to deliver that trust.
Yeah.
That's excellent. So you mentioned that you don't necessarily just work with people in our local Rockhampton region. Tell us a little bit about your business. But hey Matt Doyle, nice of you to pop on. Tell us about your business.
Yeah. So my business is called Liminal Coaching, and obviously it's a coaching business. So I work predominantly with women.
Yeah.
However, I'm branching more out into some services for men because they've been asking for it. And it's really about that liminal space, which is where the name liminal comes from. So a lot of women find themselves experiencing blockages for all sorts of different reasons. And so they're not really fulfilling, I guess, you might call it their life mission. whatever it is, the vision that they have for themselves to live that bigger life. And so I help them to clear those blockages, whatever they are.
Okay, so a blockage, that's an interesting word. Give us an example or tell me a story that explains what a blockage is.
So a blockage is something that's holding you back from stepping up, taking that next step. It might be that you have a self-worth issue. So, for instance, I've worked with a client in the past, beautiful lady, successful business. To all intents and purposes from the outside, she is somebody that most people would look up to and admire and go, what an incredible woman. She's, achieving things, kicking goals, doing great things. However, she had this self-worth issue, and she just knew that business was capable of so much more and that she could take it to the next level, but that there was something that had always held her back and made her play small. So we explored that together and have worked on those issues. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about what they are, but have worked on those issues so that she can understand what it is that's holding her back, and then obviously we put a plan in place to improve and move those areas of blockage. A lot of the time, we just don't. We're operating unconsciously. We just don't know that they're there. It's not that, and even sometimes knowing that they're there isn't enough either. So we have to, use some particular techniques in order to get around those blockages. And it's interesting, once they do that, it's incredible how they take off.
Yeah, and so is that what happened to this lady? She just went, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
That's
Stopped playing a small game.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so you're coaching, your target market is women. So Melody said a couple of weeks ago that knowing your customer is probably the most important thing in effective marketing. Would you agree with that?
Totally agree with that. Yeah, you've got to do that validation. It's interesting, when I started my business, I had a vision for who my customer was and a very clear client avatar, and I did a lot of work around that. The interesting thing was, but that they then had this secondary market, as I said, men. When you look at my website, you look at all of my marketing, it's not aimed to men, and you can see that. It's a very feminine brand and a very empowered woman kind of brand. However, I've attracted this secondary market of men who align with the message that I'm also sending, and are wanting, some inside information on things like, communication and emotional literacy. So you can see why they're attracted to a female brand to offer those things.
So I know that you speak a lot about this concept of an avatar, and you've even run a workshop here at the Hub around how to identify your avatar. So can you firstly explain or define what you mean when you say the word avatar, and then secondly give us a bit of an insight or paint a picture around what the process is to define a customer avatar?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So a client avatar is nothing more than the picture that you hold in your head of the ideal client that you want to work with, that your business is developed for. A lot of people do this in reverse. They build their business and then they analyse their statistics and go, this is who my customer is. Actually, it needs to be done in reverse. So it's, who is the person I'm trying to reach? And so you need to intimately get to know that person. So when I did my client avatar, I looked at the age that person is, how many children she's likely to have, what level of education she's likely to have, what TV shows she watches, who her inspirations are, so who does she look up to? Does she read magazines? What social media pages does she hang out on? So I built a very complete picture of who this person was. I didn't just go, I've got this product and I want to sell it to this particular market. I looked at who my client avatar was, who would be wanting to use my services. And then, your branding and your marketing is geared to that person. And one of the advantages is that you can speak the language that they speak, and you can, you have an intimate knowledge of them. And so, your communication and the language that you're using is very directed towards them, and they understand you. You're straight away building that rapport.
I think that's a very interesting point, where I think consumers and customers expect that relationship now with businesses, perceived or otherwise. They want to feel like they are in a relationship with the business, and they want to know that they can trust either the person or the business itself. And you can build that so much easier when you actually know who the customer is, right? So did you give your avatar a name?
She does have a name, and her name is actually Chloe, which is
cool.
an interesting choice. And even that wasn't by chance. I actually researched women born in this year, what were the top 10 female names.
And so Chloe
was in the top 10. Some of the others I didn't like very much, so I chose Chloe. But so the interesting thing is, that it allows you to make them feel heard.
Yeah.
You're really, and I'm not saying just feel heard, but you are able to really be in that same mind space. So you genuinely are hearing them.
Yeah.
You genuinely know what their pain points are and what their problems are.
Yeah.
You can't market to everybody. That kind of generalised marketing, I think the days of that are gone. Most services these days cannot be successful if they do that.
No, I always think that people are, with any marketing, you're actually competing against the coolest YouTube videos. You're competing against photos and messages from friends and family, boyfriends, girlfriends. You are competing against kids, anything that will get your target markets and hold their attention. And so you can't just put a generic thing out there and hope that they're going to see it and click on it, because it's just not going to happen in this day and age. People are multitasking too. So your ideal client would be cooking dinner, looking after kids, being on Facebook and watching television simultaneously.
Right.
You have to do something extraordinary to interrupt what they're doing and capture their attention, to talk to them, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you have been doing something extraordinary. Tell us about how you've used.
There's lots and lots of ways that I'm using my content to connect with people.
Okay, well that's impressive. You're basically using every platform except for the new ones like Snapchat and TikTok. Everything else you're on.
Snapchat, my target market doesn't
not
really hang
there.
out there.
Yeah.
They're a bit young for me, so I don't use Snapchat quite deliberately.
Yeah. Good. So what do you do on these platforms? How do you capture these people's attention and build relationships with them?
Yeah.
And how do you then turn them into customers?
Yeah. So obviously, it's a branding thing. So there's a consistency between who I am as a person, my authenticity, my personal values. They're very clear on all of my social media platforms and on my website as well. So that level of consistency and my personal brand is a part of it. So that goes right through into the colours that I use. So when I'm doing an Instagram post, for instance, the same colours, the same black and white images and the same accent colours are used there as are used in my print media, as are used
What
on
are your
LinkedIn.
colours?
So there's a gold, there's a deep purple, and then there's a deep charcoal grey, and it's actually the softest, lightest pale pink, but it looks white most of the time.
That's interesting.
So
that's cool.
They're my brand colours.
I love that. So there's a lot of psychology behind the use of colour.
Absolutely.
And honestly, if you've never Googled colour psychology, do yourself a favour. Google it. Every single colour has a different meaning and evokes a different emotion in the seer or the reader. So that's cool. You have your brand colours is like royal. Very nice.
So quality but feminine.
Feminine,
was
exactly.
the brief.
Where you went for.
And that was what I was wanting.
Perfect.
So I use that consistency in imaging, obviously. So again, the same kinds of black and white images across all my social media. So having that brand consistency is one of the very first things, because people straight away recognise it as my brand, but again, all of those emotions that come up with it. A lot of the photos that I use, they're couples in intimate, and I don't mean like, sexual, but intimate spaces, so that, they're in deep conversation or they're, sharing a moment, because a lot of the work that I do is around that kind of work.
Okay, so just to be clear,
Yes.
you went and you defined your avatar, which was Chloe, and then you found that I'm asking a question. Sounds. Okay, what problems? Relationships beyond, clearing the blockages. Relationships is another really avenue of problems that women face. And now you're doing relationship coaching or counselling?
Yeah, I do relationship counselling. The interesting thing is, for women, a lot of the time, the relationship is the blockage.
Okay. It's the problem.
Right.
It's not me, it's you.
Well, no.
Oh, damn, why
might need
couldn't
some
it be
counselling.
this way? I have to come along, yes.
No. So, no, it's not that. But the issue being that women often use their relationship as reasons to play small.
Yeah.
And
I
let's face
completely
it,
understand
the
that.
multiple commitments that they have to family and partners and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So relationship is something that keeps coming up again and again and again.
Right.
A lot of the time, it's historical stuff too. It's family of origin stuff that makes them get into a difficult relationship that then holds them back. So learning about boundaries and self-worth and all of those things, it doesn't end the relationship, but it encourages them to be able to develop this other side of their life.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I completely
So
understand
that's
that.
why it keeps coming up.
I think that is such an important point, because as women we have such an important role to fulfill, and men do too. Everyone does have. Peter, hey, thank you for joining us. Both genders have a really important role to fulfill, and I think the relationship issues or problems that we might face as women would affect men equally, and so resolving them, everyone gets to play a bigger game, right?
Right, because the reality is most people are partnered. That's life, right? Most of us are choosing to be partnered.
That's right.
But a lot of us are not in relationships that are necessarily healthy or helpful or help us to play the bigger game, right? So a lot of people will find themselves in relationships that hold them small, or that keep encountering the same kind of roadblocks, and it's a pattern, and they don't know how to break out of that pattern, okay? A lot of energy is expended into relationships. When we have a successful relationship, right, one that really does help us to grow and be the best version of ourselves, then, that's the foundation for everything else that we do. So a lot of people don't understand the importance of a really good relationship, but if it's really poor, you can't go on and succeed and do those other things that you want to do. And if it's really good, it's literally a springboard. It's the rock solid foundation for you to create an amazing life. So it's the one thing that most of us have got in common, that we're in relationship. There are a lot of mediocre relationships out there, let me tell you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's tie it back to marketing. You go and define an avatar, which is what Melody called your ideal client. And we also spoke to Matthew last week, and he said his ideal client's in the NDIS space. And so you have to know who your client is, because even if you sell something that you think is for everyone in the world, if you try to talk to everyone, no one will listen.
Right.
Because we're competing essentially for attention, and people's attention
and your
is
message
everywhere.
is too diluted.
Too diluted. Okay, and then so you found that Chloe, you defined this person to essentially build her business as your client, and then you listen to your target market, you listen to your avatar, and what these women were saying is that their relationships are problematic and holding them back, and so you help people clear all of the issues in relationships so that they can succeed. Right. So that's what you're using the social media platforms for, to get that message out and build a relationship with your brand, which has consistency in colors and images, and then capture the attention of your target market and talk to them, and then ultimately lead them down a journey where you connect, maybe online or in a room, and you can actually help them resolve what's holding them back. Would that be right?
Sounds exactly like what I do. Most of them do reach out through having seen something that I've done on social media.
So tell us about that. So you use social media, especially Facebook, because Facebook is where a lot of people are at. Yep. Tell us about how you do that, what you do. You post, obviously, images is what you've mentioned before, so tell us more.
Yeah. So the image is only a part of it. There's obviously always a story that goes with that. So I create 15 pieces of social media content a week from one piece of content. Okay, so I start with a Facebook Live.
You just say that like a throwaway line. You create 15 pieces of content from one piece of content.
Correct.
How do you do that?
Okay, so I start with a Facebook Live each week.
Yeah.
That Facebook Live is repurposed. So it's transcribed into a document.
Yes.
That document will in future be a book or an article or whatever. it's turned into an article, which is put on my LinkedIn profile. A couple of snapshots are taken out, so a couple of quotes are taken out and are tweeted, and are also attached to images for Instagram.
Yep.
And then the transcription is turned into, so the recording of the Facebook Live is turned into a podcast as well. And so you can see that I start to get all of the different pieces, from one piece of content. And then obviously the blog goes up onto the website as well. And, within 2 days I've got 15 pieces that are then scheduled throughout the week for release.
Okay. So in Marketing Talk, all of these different platforms, Facebook, Instagram, podcasts, etc., tweeting, blogging, they're all called channels, right? They're all different channels to get to your target market. And so you take one piece of content and you repurpose that piece of content and spread it out all of these channels. Would that be right?
That's exactly right.
So do you have profiles set up for Liminal Coaching across all of these channels?
That's correct, yes I do.
Okay, cool. So tell us a story about how you've done that in the past and it's brought a client into your coaching room or onto Skype into a session with you.
Yeah, okay. So it's not unusual for me to get somebody who reach out and say, look, I've been following you for 3 or 4 months and watching the message that you're posting. And that's great because obviously that's building credibility, it's building that intimacy and that relationship. They already know what I stand for, they understand who I am. I guess it's easy to get an idea for who I am as a person because some say I have no filters, but I'm pretty genuine. Okay, I'm an open book.
We love that about you.
Thank
we love
you, Elize. Hasn't always been a comfortable thing over the years, but anyway. So they already feel like they have some knowledge of me,
yes.
and they reach out to me often through my website, and obviously that will come across in an email to me, which then promotes a conversation. I get in touch with them and we have a phone conversation from there. If they're a local client, they'll come into my rooms and we'll have face-to-face sessions. Sometimes that's not the case. I've had people reach out to me from the US and other places, and we do Skype sessions. So the conversion part of that process is that phone conversation where, it's a 30-minute consultation, if you like, that's free, and it's really for us to explore whether we think that we could work together. I don't, I filter clients too. I don't work with just anybody. The reality is the gift of being in business for yourself is you get to decide who you want to work with. And the reality is there are people that I either can't help or I just know that there are better people out there to work with that person. And so I would rather refer them than have them work with me. I have a very clear image about who I want to work with and who is the right and comfortable fit for a client for me, and who I can be successful in helping them. That's really one of the big things. There is no point, I won't take somebody's money or commitment if I don't believe that I can help them. So that 30-minute phone conversation is for both of us to just determine, are we a good fit to work together? And can I help you to solve the problems that you're experiencing?
I think it...
Go on. I was going to say, well, it's as much them making that decision as it is me.
No, absolutely, I understand that. So I think it was Matthew last week. I can't remember. It might have been someone else, but I'm pretty sure it was Matthew, where we spoke about the difference between marketing and sales. Right. And where many business owners have those two processes intertwined in one thing, but it's really two completely separate things.
Absolutely.
And for you, your social media marketing is marketing, and then the phone conversation is the sales part.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's where the term conversion is, where you turn that person into a customer or refer them on.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. Okay, so tell us more about the use of technology and how it's helping you also in delivering your service.
Right, yeah. Well, obviously, I don't just work with a local market, so I use technology in setting up, whether it be a group session, because I do run some workshops as well, and, I have a larger group that I run once a week that is a women's program who, it's called Rise, and so that's actually through like a go-to meeting type of situation where we have content each week and an activity that we do online, and then they go away and they do homework and then reconvene next week. So
tell us more about that. If someone wants to use GoToMeeting, how does that work? What do they do?
Yeah, so it's obviously an app that you download, and you can have it on your laptop or you can have it on a phone, and obviously that makes it really, really portable, which is great. And so you purchase, you can use it for, I think it's a month for free or something, 14 days or something like that anyway when you're starting out. And then you send an invitation, which is like a unique code to anybody who wants to come into that room on that night or whenever it is that you're holding it. And so then they come in and they can either have video on or video off, and it's like participating in a workshop or a classroom situation, but people can be anywhere in the world.
Either on their phones or their tablets or their computers.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah. So they don't necessarily have to do the visual either. They can dial in and actually just be talking. So they literally, I've had people who are in the car on the way home from work, for instance, and they join these meetings. So we run workshops virtually, which is, obviously it opens up the whole world as far as, who's available to attend. I use a VA who obviously a lot of that, we can have a lot of automation. So, things like payment portals and communication, I automate as much of that as I can.
So again, VA, virtual assistant.
Virtual assistant, yeah.
So tell us about the payment portals and any of the other technology that you use. And then I also want to ask you about how you decide what content to share. But let's talk about the technology first.
Right. So, sorry, what was the question about?
Two questions at once. Let's start with one at a time. I'm sorry. Okay, so maybe let's go to the content question, then we'll come back to the technology question after.
Good.
So how do you decide what content to do? How do you decide what content to post on your Facebook Live that then gets repurposed?
Gosh, I wish I had some really technical formula to share with you. I think it would be so much more impressive.
But
the reality is, it's always something that has come up with a client, or even maybe it's just on reflection, something that I've observed out in the world or experienced. I might have read an article, I might have seen an interaction, or perhaps it's a conversation that I've had with a client, and I realise this is a problem that many people are experiencing. This isn't just this one situation, this one client. And so I then look to how I can answer that question in a way that, or educate people, because my Facebook Lives are really about education, so that people get a little bit of content and have some skills and tools to take away after they've watched it. So inspiration comes anywhere from 3 a.m. to a conversation at the supermarket.
Got it. I've seen some of your posts where you go, I was at the shops and I saw someone not doing a good job in their relationship, and so here's a bit of here's the problem and here's the solution. So do you have a bit of a recipe that you follow in your Facebook Live? So how do you decide what to actually say and how much scripting goes in behind the scenes?
It's so hard because there's so much information you could be sharing, and I often feel like, oh my God, this subject is way too big for a 7-minute Facebook Live, which is I try to keep mine sort of under 10 minutes, so that it's just, because I call them truth shots. It's like a cup of coffee and a truth shot, right?
Right, got it.
So,
that's cool.
So I try to keep them under 10 minutes, and but the topic can be huge, and so it's about refining what you put in there. They are always scripted. So
do you read?
No, I don't read, but I have it all written down. Okay. And it is right there in front of me, usually on a little thing that just outside of the camera that you can't see.
Nice.
Right? And so I can just dot point, go, I wanted to cover that, I wanted to cover this.
Yeah.
And I do that because I'm a talker. I don't know if you can guess
that.
But
I never have guessed,
right?
Karyn.
I
never.
love to chat. I'm a talker. And I can go down the rabbit hole and get completely lost.
Yeah.
So I have to have that script there to bring me back, or else I run out of time and I haven't covered what I think are the key points.
So do you use a formula, or does it?
Yeah, there is a formula. And the formula is, what's the pain point? So what's the pain that they're experiencing?
Yeah.
And I try to give them a little bit of a solution to that as well. It's not just a matter of, the solution's often far bigger, but I want to give them some tools or some information about where to go to next, or how they might handle the situation, or how to identify what's happening, because a lot of the time that's really where the problem lies. They aren't quite sure what's going on. And then, so I spend probably, 25% of the time doing that, and then the rest of the time I try to give them some actual gold, some content, some actual solution stuff. So I'm in effect giving away some of my best information, and I actually think that that's really important because it builds value.
Okay, so there's a little bit of a tip, right? If you want some of the most valuable relationship information, you should just find Karyn's Liminal Coaching on Facebook, and it happens every Sunday at...
usually 5 p.m. Yeah.
Usually 5 p.m. It's a truth shot.
Truth shot. Yeah, and they're all on YouTube, so that you. I didn't
you can binge.
YouTube,
you can binge watch on another
all
channel.
On YouTube. Yeah, I forgot a social media channel. Sorry.
So let's get back to the technology bit. Yeah. Nice little segue. Okay, so you use all of the social medias: Facebook, Instagram, blah blah blah. Yeah. What other technology do you rely on to run your business that saves you time or money? Yeah. And you mentioned a VA. Maybe talk to us.
So I have a virtual assistant, and obviously I find that wonderful. So I just need to step back one step, if you don't mind.
No.
So why do I want to have everything on technology? Because my ultimate goal is to have a laptop lifestyle and to be completely flexible about where I live in the world, where I'm traveling, and to be able to run a business from a laptop no matter where I am.
Nice.
So I won't always have, a bricks and mortar business as far as counselling rooms or anything like that. And the ultimate goal is to have none of that. And so right from the inception of the business, my goal has been to have everything online and to automate as much as I can, to be able to just take my nice little MacBook Pro and sit down at a cafe, restaurant, wherever, and run my business.
Nice.
So that thought has always been there, and so obviously the goal has been to achieve that, which means that everything from the way that it's set up all the way through to the assistance that I get as in a virtual assistant. That's why I've chosen a virtual assistant rather than somebody who sits in an office as well. Obviously the benefit is you're not hiring them for 40 hours a week as well. So a lot of the things that I do are automated. I do have payment portals that operate from my website. Obviously,
so what payment portal do you use, or what? Give us a bit of insight.
Yeah.
Do you use
so
PayPal, or what do you use?
I'm not a fan of PayPal, actually. I find it's quite glitchy and I have a lot of problems with it. So I do have PayPal, but it's not my preferred method. I actually have Xero accounting package, obviously, but that links to Stripe, which Stripe is the payment portal on my website.
Stripe, there you go. And again, if you don't know what that is, just jump on Google. Google Stripe, and you'll see the website come up. You'll be able to find all the information on how it works, and you'll be able to register and integrate.
And a lot of these are chosen because they integrate well, because they're reasonable. They have different levels of price points for when you're starting out, and they can grow with you as you grow. So there's a lot of it's quite dynamic, which is great. Stripe, the benefit of Stripe is I can also use it in my counselling room, like with an iPad or an iPhone, and a little tap and go, so people can actually pay with their cards in my counselling room as well.
Nice.
And that integrates with my booking system, so people can book online an appointment with me or purchase a package or book into a workshop, and Stripe integrates with that as well.
So what's the booking system that you use?
I actually, and I'm looking to change, so I'm going to give a plug to Satori because that's what I use right now, and a lot of coaches do find that quite good because you can put together different packages and things. There are some limitations, and I am looking at swapping across to Calendly or one of those at the moment. So,
okay, so what is it about Satori that you haven't found useful?
Satori doesn't integrate too well with my website, and I want to have one solution that is across all of my various platforms, whether that be like an Eventbrite booking, or whether that be a workshop, or whether that be somebody booking a single session with me online. And Satori is a little bit glitchy. It's not doing that as well as I would like.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Okay.
But when you start in business, a lot of the time you put these things in place, and then as you grow, you and you've been using it for a little while, you go, well, I want some other functionality. So you're always looking to grow and change and update and upgrade.
So if you were to give someone advice who has a bricks and mortar business, limited use of technology, what should they do?
Wow, that's such a big question. But I think really, more than anything, social media is about being really clear about who you are. I have to be honest, because I mean, anyone who's on Facebook or any of those social medias, you know just how much information comes across. It can be really, really overwhelming. And a lot of it is quite vanilla and generic, let's face it. And they're the people who probably don't get, why you would want to use social media, and they probably don't get a lot of response from it, and they wonder why, and that will be why. Because as you were saying before, you have to stand out. So honestly, the very first thing I would do is go back to your values, your mission, and your vision. Because when you get clear on those things, developing your client avatar comes out of that. You have to know who you are before you can go out and promote that to somebody else. You have to know what you want to be offering too.
Okay, so it starts with maybe a simple exercise of sitting down with a cup of coffee, writing down what is it that I value in the world, what do I stand for, and then who is my ideal client, my avatar. Yeah. And then from there you build your content, or what would you do next? What would they do next?
So I would be having a look at what are the pain points of that ideal client. What is the problem I'm trying to solve for them? Because let's face it, if I want to sell pink fluffy slippers and I live in the tropics, for instance, and nobody wants pink fluffy slippers, well, that's a nice little dream, but you're not going to make any money out of it. It's not going to be, you've got to be solving a client's problem. So you've got to identify what the problem is that you're going to address. What is it that I'm good at that aligns with what this client wants, and what products am I going to be offering?
Okay, and then they have a hesitation because they're not on a lot of technology and they're not sure whether they can or should move forward and embrace or even just put a toe in the water of technology. What would you suggest they do?
Get a VA.
Get someone else to do it for you.
In all honesty, if you are sitting in that place and you're concerned about getting started, I think some assistance is actually a really good way to get started until you develop some confidence, probably. Failing that, start with one social media platform. So you've done your client avatar, so you know what social media platforms they're going to be hanging out on. And I said before, for me, that's LinkedIn and Facebook. I've not yet gotten a client through Twitter, right? But I still put those tweets up each week. They don't take a lot of extra effort. So I know where my clients hang out. So just focus on that one social media where your clients hang out. A lot of people find social media very intimidating and scary because it's quite, they feel like they're revealing a lot of themselves. They're putting themselves out there. Well, that's the beauty of social media. It's allowing you a bigger platform to put yourself out there. That's social media, but were you talking about just social media or technology in general?
Technology in general. I'm just thinking of, someone who's maybe watching this, who has a bricks and mortar business and they have not yet adopted a lot of technology, yet they know that they must or they should start moving in that direction. Is there anything, other general tips other than what you've already mentioned that's really valuable? Any other general tips as to what they can do?
Yeah. So I guess highlighting the areas, where do you feel that not embracing technology is holding you back? And that might be social media and advertising and marketing, and the sales process, because obviously that can all be automated as well. Or it might be, in adopting some kind of technology in your business, whether that be a software or a hardware issue. So there are a lot of experts out there, and there's a lot of YouTube channels and things where you can actually watch, a 15-minute snippet and learn. I recently got a new Mac. I haven't driven a Mac in years. And I'm not talking a Mac truck, I'm talking a MacBook Pro. I've never driven one. I've never owned a Mac. And I was really uncertain, for the first month. I was like, oh my God, I don't know why I've made this move. This is crazy. I went to YouTube nearly every day. It's like, okay, what keystrokes do I need to learn? You can watch these little tutorials. This is the beauty of obviously social media. You can watch the little tutorials and teach yourself. So it's a good place to start. Just start with one technology or one platform and start educating yourself and just jump in and have a go. What's the worst that can happen?
Absolutely. I can't reiterate or highlight what you said more. If you just jump on YouTube, you can educate yourself and you can do it easily and you can just have a go, because once you have a go, then you'll see it's actually quite easy and it's not expensive. No. Most of the time.
No.
Most of the time it's very affordable.
It comes down down to, how you want to allocate your funds too. I mean, you could spend thousands on Facebook ads, for instance, or you could spend $100 a month,
Yeah,
And
exactly.
once you've got a targeted market and you know who you're speaking to, that's because you could send $1,000 down the drain too if you don't have those systems in place and you don't know who you're talking to.
Exactly. That is essentially the non-technological most important factor, is to know your customer.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been part of the Smart Hub for...
Well, really since it opened, in one capacity or another.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you have been here since the beginning.
Yeah.
Tell us about what you think about the Smart Hub. What do you do here? You make a valuable contribution to our community. Yeah, tell us more.
So I've loved the concept of the Smart Hub since the very first time that we talked about it, actually. I love the fact that it's a space where a lot of people can come together, we're like-minded, we're all business people, entrepreneurs, creatives, and there's nothing like being able to have those conversations with a group of people to fire your own creativity. I never walk out of here without another new idea, which is, that's sometimes quite concerning because there's lots of ideas. But so that's why I got involved, because I like to put myself in an environment where I grow and learn and my creativity is sparked. I run a mastermind group here each month on a Friday night, last Friday of the month. And again, that's entrepreneurs, business people coming in who, they want a forum to talk about the challenges that they're facing in their business right now, and, different viewpoints and different skill sets that can attack that problem, if you like, from a different angle. Sometimes, just in the talking about their business, they go, "Oh, I know what the answer is," and that's great. So we're not here to problem solve. I know that it can be pitched that way at times, and I don't really agree with that. What is actually happening is it's a group of creative people coming together to discuss their business, to kick around ideas, if you like, and to get other people's input. And we know that if you're in a creative environment like that, you kind of platform, you jump off those, this person will have an idea and you go, "Oh, well, I like that. I could apply that to my business if I add this." And so suddenly the idea is bigger and greater and it's grown. And so that's really what it's about. It's really an inspiration space more than a problem-solving space.
I love that. So the last Friday of every month.
Correct.
Yeah, and you can just jump on that by... following our Facebook page is how you register for the mastermind. It's really simple. Yep. Anything else that you'd like to say about the Smart Hub, about your experience here?
Yeah, look, I love being in this environment. I wish I worked here 5 days a week. Unfortunately, I don't at this point in time. I have to go out and do some other income generating work as well. And, I think that the level of support and the professionalism, the environment, staff, there's always so much support from you, Elize, and inspiration. And, I come in for my regular pep talk with Elize because I always feel like I'm floating when I leave and I've got a million ideas, which is great. Courtney, obviously, and Adelaide, they just do a fantastic job of supporting all the members here with anything that you need and want.
Job, yeah.
It's such a resource centre, beyond just being a space which is beautiful. It's such a resource to us, whether it be the tools to do our trade, printers and desks and phones and offices and all of those things, or an environment to hold a workshop. It's the people that really make the difference, and the other members are part of that, obviously.
Yeah. We have a great community, don't we?
We do.
I think people often comment on how optimistic and positive the culture is, which is really great.
Yeah.
And you make such a wonderful contribution, and you're such a valued part of our community. So thank you very much. Now, any parting words around marketing or technology? Anything last minute that you'd like to say?
I guess. I'm 50, so I'm not a spring chicken. And if anyone was going to struggle with technology, I guess, people in my age bracket and older would probably fit into that kind of category. And I wasn't born with a computer in the household. And in fact, I remember my very first class in high school where computers were introduced, really giving my age away here, and we weren't allowed to attend that if you weren't actually enrolled. It was like one classroom with 8 computers. So if I can do it, anybody can do it, and that's the point I'm making. It's just that sense of curiosity and being willing to go and explore and have a go. That's really all that's important. And if you fail or you feel like you've mucked it up, do I feel like every one of my Facebook Lives hits the mark, or sometimes I forget what I'm saying, or the cat jumps up in front of me while I'm talking, or I play it back later and I go, oh my gosh, I brushed my hair back 100 times, or I scratched my nose 3 times. It's not about being perfect. It's just about being genuine and allowing your client to connect with you. And part of that is seeing who you really are.
Yeah, that's awesome. Randy, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back. You've come on just at the end of our Facebook Live. We will be back next Thursday at 1 o'clock to talk about technology and business and how to use technology to save time, raise revenue, and build your team. Today with Karyn Battersby, Liminal Coaching. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for everything that you've shared with us. I think it's very, very valuable. And as I said, we really love having you as part of our community. So
Thanks,
thank
Elize.
you.
Great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Bye.